Billions of brain cells are not done forging links with billions of other brain cells. Eventually, there will be trillions and trillions of connections between cells, charged with electrical pulses rippling like lightning storms across the hills and valleys of the brain's deeply furrowed tissue. Every cell in its place, every link between cells carefully organized. Nothing random, nothing arbitrary.
What we would really love to understand is how the brain, during development, generates millions and millions of neurons, sends them to the right position in the brain, and then somehow instructs each of those individual nerve cells to form very, very specific connections with one another. You can think about development like a play that follows a script that is written down by the genetic code, but it has no director, it has no producer, and it has a bunch of actors that have never spoken their lines before. Despite all this, you pull the play off. To me, that's a miracle.
My name is Noam Chomsky. I'm a retired professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where I've been for 65 years. I think I can do no better about answering the question of what it means to be truly educated than to go back to some of the classic views on the subject. For example, the views expressed by the founder of the modern higher education system, Wilhelm von Humboldt, leading humanist figure of the Enlightenment, who wrote extensively on education and human development and argued, I think, kind of very plausibly, that a core principle and requirement of a fulfilled human being is the ability to inquire and create constructively, independently, without external controls, to move to a modern counterpart. A leading physicist who taught right here used to tell his classes that it's not important what we cover in the class, it's important what you discover. To be truly educated from this point of view means to be in a position to inquire and create on the basis of the resources available to you, which you've come to appreciate and comprehend, to know where to look, to know how to formulate serious questions, to question standard doctrine if that's appropriate, to find your own way, to shape the questions that are worth pursuing, and to develop the path to pursue them. That means knowing, understanding many things, but also much more important than what you have stored in your mind, to know where to look, how to question, how to challenge, how to proceed independently to deal with the challenges that the world presents to you and that you develop in the course of your self-education and inquiry and investigations in cooperation and solidarity with others. That's what an educational system should cultivate from kindergarten to the graduate school, and in the best cases sometimes does. And that leads to people who are, at least by my standards, well educated.
Neil deGrasse Tyson was born and raised in New York City and graduated from the Bronx High School of Science. He earned his BA in physics from Harvard and his PhD in astrophysics from Columbia. Dr. Tyson has served on presidentially appointed commissions and NASA's Advisory Council to study the future and development of the U.S. space program. Among Tyson's 9 books is his memoir, The Sky is Not the Limit: Adventures of an Urban Astrophysicist, and Origins, 14 billion years of cosmic evolution, which was made into a 4-part miniseries that Tyson hosted. Tyson is currently on-camera host of PBS Nova's spin-off program, Nova Science Now. Tyson's latest 2 books are Death by Black Hole and Other Cosmic Quandaries, which was a New York Times bestseller, and The Pluto Files, The Rise and Fall of America's Favorite Planet. Tyson is the recipient of 9 honorary doctorates and the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal. The International Astronomical Union celebrated his contributions to the public appreciation of the cosmos in their official naming of asteroid 13123 Tyson. Tyson is the first occupant of the Frederick P. Rose Directorship of the Hayden Planetarium. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
September 11th, 2001, day we all remember. This happened 4 blocks from my residence. These are camcorder shots from my window. This is the North Tower on fire. The South Tower had just been hit about the 20th of a second before this frame was taken. You can see a piece of it punching out and the shadow of that. This is before the atomized fuel ignited, so it's really just the kinetic energy of the ship coming through. If you've never been to New York, just so you understand, this black building on the left is a 50-story hotel, all right? And the towers are 107 stories each. Why am I showing you this? Well, let me just get through it first. So the jet fuel ignites, creates a deflagration wave, and there it is engulfing the entire, and that's the remnants of the plane and people and everything else, office furniture coming out the side. Within an hour of that, the towers are just gone, all right? And this is the dust cloud that came after it. So this is the street on which I live. So this is 65 minutes after it collapsed. And so this is going on. Shortly after this, President Bush, in an attempt to sort of distinguish we from they, utters the following sentence. And this was before I was on his Rolodex, so I could have helped him out here, you know. I could have said, no, don't say that, okay? So he says, with loose quoting of biblical Genesis, he says, our God is the God who named the stars. Now, first of all, it's the same God, okay? God of Islam and God of the Old Testament. It's the same. Allah is the same as the God of the Old. It's the same. So hold that aside for the moment. Hold that aside. What he did not know is that of all stars that have names, 2/3 of them have Arabic star names, okay? Now, I don't think that's the point he wanted to make. I think he didn't quite get that. And so, you know, here they go. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. Not all stars have names, but 2/3 of those that do have names have Arabic names. There we go. Okay? There they go. And you might say, well, how did this come to pass? Where did that come from? What was going on? Because if you think of the Middle East now, and it's not where, you're not saying, hey, these are folks naming stars. You go back 1,000 years, Islam, 800 to 1100. In that period, it's generally called the golden age of Islam, of Islamic science. Golden age, true gold. There was no greater golden age in the history of the world before or after. When you look at the sum of advances that came out of that period in Baghdad. Algebra was invented in that period. Algebra is itself an Arabic word. Algorithm is an Arabic word. Our numerals are Arabic numerals. You ever wonder why? You ever stop and think why they're called Arabic numerals? In that period, mathematics took great leaps and bounds. Agriculture, engineering, medicine, navigation. Star maps were made to assist navigation. Astrolabes were crafted. Then it all stopped. It ended. If you're a historian, typically you focus on history as marked by changes of kings and leaders and wars. That's the lens through which many historians look at the past. And so if you ask people, they'll say, oh, the Mongols sacked Baghdad, and so that's why it all ended. If that were the only force operating, then later, when the Islamic culture rose, you would still see this tradition of scientific innovation. But it has not recovered. It has not come back at all compared to what was going on in that 300 years. And what you do is you read the writings of al-Ghazali, who was a Muslim cleric, and he was to Islam what St. Augustine was to Christianity. What he did was he taught you how to be a good Muslim. He taught you how to read the Quran and how to obey the commands, because back then people were just interpreting it for themselves. He came along, he was an academic scholar. He interpreted the Quran. He said, this is how you must do it. First had social influence and then political and cultural influence. And basically, his interpretation took over. And in that interpretation, it included the perspective that the manipulation of numbers is the work of the devil. This cuts the kneecaps out of any mathematical advances that would unfold. Math is the language of the universe. If you take that out of your personal equation, you no longer contribute to the advance of human understanding of that universe. And that absence of Muslim presence in the frontier of science persists to this day. Take a look at the Nobel Prize from 1900 to 2010. I can do this for the Jews, for example. How many Jews in the world? There's like 15 million tops, 15 million out of 7 billion people. These are the numbers of Jews who have won the Nobel Prize in the sciences. 25% of the Nobel Prizes. We have a Jewish person in the audience. Congratulations. Okay, fine. Okay. This is rightly something to be extraordinarily proud of. The traditions of Jews in the 20th century is one of education and scholarship. In earlier centuries, it was one of very strict sort of study of the Torah, did not involve the natural world. This was a later emergence of the Jewish culture to exhibit this. Let's look at the numbers for Islam. So these are Jews. There are 15 million Jews, 25% of the Nobel Prizes. There is 1.3 billion Muslims in the world. These are the numbers. 2.5. Okay, I'll give you 3 if you really want to include economics as a full number there, okay? If you got to give it a full number, okay, okay. Now, for me, by the way, you can analyze this in any number of ways. There are 50 times the number of Nobel Prizes, 1/80th the population. There's 4,000 times the impact. I lose sleep at night with the question, how many secrets of the universe lay undiscovered? Because 1.3 billion people who in an ancestral time would have participated in this enterprise and are now not. That's what I think of as a scientist. Whole populations. By the way, there are other populations that never contributed. I'm not going to them and blaming them. I'm talking about a population that already did contribute. It's in the cultural heritage already. All we're asking is to resurrect it. It has not happened.